And I seem to attract weird things to myself. It's going to sound absolutely crazy, but I can feel certain things when I go into buildings. It's not like I'm psychic. I can just kind of feel like an emotion of the place. And that often is just fine. And sometimes it's like, nope, I need to get out of here.
Welcome to the Supernatural Travel Tales podcast. I'm Sharon Blumenfeld, your Woo Curious tour guide. Every week, I'll be taking you on an adventure, sharing unbelievable on-the-road stories with a supernatural twist. We're going beyond the bucket list to talk about the kind of travel experiences that transform us. Are you ready to check your baggage and open yourself up to the unknown? You don't want to miss the incredible guests I have lined up for you this season, so please take a moment to subscribe and check out the supernaturaltravel.com website for links, photos, and even more information about the people, places, and experiences shared here. On this episode, I sat down with Jose Harvey from My Normal Gay Life to hear about a shamanic cleansing ritual that he underwent with his partner on a recent trip to Ecuador.
My husband and I, we took a trip to Ecuador. We went to the Galapagos Islands and we spent 10 days there, which is just amazing. And then came back to the mainland, and we were in this town called Otavalo. It's a pretty large town, but it's mostly indigenous people who live there. And of course, it was sort of part of our trip. We had added on this stay at this eco resort type thing. It was like, it's called Sachaji, which means my beloved mountain. And so this lady, this Ecuadorian lady, she built this place because she believes that this mountain has very special energy, and it's right in front of a volcano, which according to indigenous Ecuadorian, beliefs, each volcano has a soul. It's either a female or a male, and there's a very extremely strong energy on the mountain that can have a major effect on those who are within the mountain's presence. So it was a very interesting experience. I'd actually never been at a hotel like this ever in my entire life. She took me for a walk around the grounds, and there were certain spots where they had laid mirrors out because the energy from the volcanoes, you could see at least 2 to 3 volcanoes from the hotel.
Wow.
And the energy from the volcanoes, so the energy from these volcanoes apparently concentrate on this mountain. And so a shaman had come and instructed certain places to have mirrors placed there in order to reflect that energy back so it wouldn't be so overwhelming to the guests, because it can cause people to feel depressed and such. At least that's their belief,
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, it was a really interesting place, and she offered all kinds of the traditional services you might think of, like massages and stuff like that. But then she also had on her services chart, it said that you could take part, you could have an indigenous traditional Andean cleansing. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I was like, I'm doing it. My husband's like, well, what does it mean? I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, but I'm just going to do it. And then I was like, you should do it with me. And he's like, I don't know. Because he's a scientist. He's very much like, he kind of thinks a lot of it's mumbo jumbo. And I was like, no, do it with me. I'm asking you to do it with me. So he did it with me. And it was just very interesting. So we had to take our shoes off up at the main part of the hotel. We had to go through a walk through the garden, which was intended to sort of like wipe away some of the negativity from our bodies. And we got to this place which a shaman had designated as a place to do these rituals. And we got there, and there was a family there. There was a mother, a father, a son, 2 sons, and a daughter. And I was like, well, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting like a family to be here.
How old were the kids?
They were a bit older, so they were at least in their early teens to late teens. And she actually talked to us a lot. I was doing it with my husband, and I was doing it with my friend. His name is Sebastian. He and his partner, they're also bloggers. They run the blog Nomadic Boys. So we had traveled together. And so Sebastian decided to do it, and his partner didn't because he was recording stuff for us. But so basically we get into this circle that they had drawn out, and she asked us to sit down, and so we sit down, and it's really a misty day too. It was pretty interesting. Like the mist was just flowing all around, and I don't know, there was something about the day that made it feel extra special. And it might have just been the idea that we're going through this Indian cleansing or whatever that just amplified everything around us for some reason. But it was really cool. And so she starts talking to us, and at first she introduces herself as Mama Maria, I believe. And she tells us that her family's there, and she explains that the reason that her family's there is because she was taught how to do these things by her father, who was taught by his father, and it goes on and on and on back as far as they can remember. But a lot of the younger generations are leaving these smaller towns to go to the bigger cities, and as they leave, the culture and this knowledge disappears as well. And so that's why she wanted her family there, because she's trying to teach them so that they can pass it on to their children. And so that was kind of cool. So we're sitting there, and she starts explaining to us that, she tells us everything she's going to do. And she's like, it might seem weird to you, just go with it. She's like, I promise you're going to feel better afterwards. And, making all sorts of guarantees, which me being the skeptical person that I often am, even though I believe in these things, I'm like, that's a guarantee that you might not be able to keep. But my husband rubs off on me in some ways. So anyways, we start going through it, and so there's she starts off by giving us this clear liquid that smelled pretty. It smelled really good, like flowers, and told us, because she wanted us, we didn't have to take our clothes off. I was very worried that I was going to have to get naked in front of this lady. I was like, oh no. But that didn't have to happen. She just wanted us to rub that all over our bodies with our clothes on. So we did. She was like, make sure you put it behind your ears and get it under your chin and, reach under your shirt and la la la. So we did that. And then she takes this bundle of herbs, and I have no idea what the herbs were. And she starts beating us with them. And she's saying a prayer, and I mean, she's speaking so fast in Spanish, and a mixture of Spanish and Quechua, which is their indigenous language, that I really couldn't understand what she was saying. The only words I could make out were Pachamama, which means I think it means like the equivalent of Mother Nature. And so obviously she was praying to Mother Nature. And she explained that the herbs, that she had gathered those herbs in the morning for the purposes of this cleansing and everything else. And so after that, there was another liquid which she just poured on our heads. And then she had this other set of flowers, not herbs this time, it was like a flower mixture bouquet that she then used to again beat us, but this time she would beat us from head down to the ground. And as she was beating into the ground, I realized that whatever she was doing was intended to take all the negative energies away from you, because and she sort of explained at the end that when she was beating from our heads to the ground to our toes, that was intended to put the negative energy back into the earth from whence it came. So that was a very interesting situation. And then lastly, she took out Palo Santo, the incense. It grows in Ecuador wild. It's a type of tree. You just cut off part of the branch and it dries out, and you light it on fire like an incense. And so she lit it, and this is the part that everything else I was like, okay, now that's ritual, and I did kind of feel, I'll admit, I felt kind of better, but this is the part that really got me. I was like, I was very taken aback. So we light these. She lights these Palo Santo. Each of us had one. Me, my husband Alfred, and my friend Sebastian. And so we each had one. And then she just looks at us, and she points to me and my husband, and she goes, you and him, you guys are a lot more than friends. And I was like, what? Because we don't often, when we travel, we don't broadcast the fact that we're married or anything, because that can sometimes be met with some reservation. So she knew that we were married. And then she goes, but all three of you are very good friends. And then she's like, and I'm about to prove myself right. That's what she said. And so she lights this. We lit our Palo Santos, and the smoke. She was observing the smoke, and she saw that my smoke and the smoke of my husband's palo, his stick of incense, actually intertwined with one another. And then my friend's the smoke from his stick kind of just lingered around us, but it didn't intertwine. It was very interesting, and she said that that's how she could confirm what she had said. But then she was just looking at my husband and my friend, and she said, "You both have something wrong with your ears." She's like, "I don't know exactly what it is, but you have something wrong with your ears." She's like, "You should go to the doctor." And they had been snorkeling quite a bit. And when my husband came back home, I stayed in Ecuador. He went to the doctor, and he had this horrible case of swimmer's ear. And somehow she knew that.
So tell me, have you ever taken part in a cleansing ritual? Would you? And how about your partner or your family? How would they feel about that? Let me know what you think about this episode, or just contact me to ask a question. You can reach me on Twitter, where I'm at SupernatTravel, or on the Supernatural Travel Facebook page. And if you'd like to find Jose, you can find him over at mynormalgaylife.com, or on Twitter and Instagram at mynormalgaylife. And speaking of Instagram, please make sure to follow and tag us at Supernatural Travel. And you can join our community by using hashtag Supernatural Travel. I really want to see your travel photos and your trips to graveyards and all the fun, freaky stuff you guys are doing too. We'll be back next week with my friend Amy Askin of Amyful. Amy's got a great story about a vacation town ghost who's a bit famous for being a kleptomaniac. That's it till next time. Smooth sailing, fly and drive safe. Keep your wanderlust fires burning, and when the going gets weird, I totally want to hear about it.